why would anyone ever want to ride this? Hey y'all, it's Megan. If you are returning to my channel, welcome back, and if you're new, welcome aboard. So it's been a minute since I've done a good old-fashioned skipper story time, so that's what we're doing today. It's obvious, right, that like when you work at Disney, you go to the parks on your days off. Like that's just a thing that you do. But we also went to that other park down the street. So there was a couple of times when I went to Universal with my roommates or with some of my fellow skippers. And you know what, I'm just realizing this could alternatively be times that I got soaking wet at Universal. The first one, I went with my roommate. She loved the Simpsons ride, and it's a love it or hate it kind of thing. You either get, if you get motion sickness, you hate it, and if you don't, then you're fine. But she and I went, and we were going basically specifically to go on the Simpsons ride for some reason. When you live that close, you can go in to ride one thing and grab a snack and leave. So we went in, beautiful sunshiny day, glorious. We love Florida. We're living our best lives. We go into the queue, not too long of a line because people don't like this ride. We ride the ride, we get out. It is a torrential downpour. It was one of the heaviest rains I've ever seen. And we were just stuck. We just stood there. We just stood there under the exit. It was like a ramp under cover. So we were mostly dry. There was some sideways wind action happening. So we were a little bit wet, but for the most part we were dry, and we're just standing there waiting and waiting and waiting. We're like, oh my God, this is not gonna let up. And the ride people were like, y'all can just come back in and ride again if you want. So we were like, sure. So there was a group of us that were just standing in the exit, and we went back in, we rode again, we came back out, still raining. And we're like, come on guys, like it's the afternoon Florida thunderstorm. Why is this still going? That's supposed to only last a few minutes. What are we doing? And it was just not gonna let up. So we finally just gave up, and we were like, let's just run for it. But the Simpsons ride is at the very back of Universal Studios. And by the time we made it to City Walk and towards the parking garages, there was not a single piece of our bodies that was not actively dripping water. I took a picture, and I'll see if I can find it and put it in here. You can't even tell how wet I am, but my clothes are completely stuck to me. My shoes were soaked. My hair was plastered to my head. I think I actually have another picture, maybe. Editing Megan, see if you can find the one where you're in the car. After we got to the car, and we had the heat blowing on us because we were freezing, because we were soaked all the way through. And this was in like March or April, because she left in May, so it couldn't have been like fully summer yet. So we were freezing, we were soaked, and that might have been the last time I went on the Simpsons ride. Now the real story. Deadly Do Ride's Ripsaw Falls. If you know what that attraction is, then you know just how wet I got on this ride. If you've never seen Deadly Do Ride's Ripsaw Falls at Universal Studios, it's a log ride. You come down, I think it's 5 stories or something. It's a pretty good drop. And then at the end, the water just right in your face. You get slapped by this water. And you just stand there on the bridge overlooking this mayhem, and you just watch people, and you can hear the water hit people as they come down, and you're like, why would anyone ever want to ride this? On a day that the skippers took Universal, we went, we were having a good time. We were taking funny pictures, trying on hats, doing all kinds of stuff. We went over and saw Bruce, the Jaws shark. We rode a few rides, but I don't do water rides. I don't like water rides. I don't like getting wet. And this was in my college program when I started wearing fake eyelashes. I didn't want them to get wet and like come off. Jurassic Park, we went on River Adventure. You don't get super wet on that, especially if you're like towards the back. So that was okay. We had fun. You know, we did the Harry Potter thing. We got butterbeer. It was a great day. We really want to ride Ripsaw Falls, but we're going to do it at the end of the day because like we're going to get soaked and we want to be able to just like peace out. So we had done everything we wanted to do, and then it's time for Ripsaw Falls. I had not planned on riding this. There was not a single point in time during that day that I was like, yes, I will be joining y'all on that. I had no intention to ride it. I was perfectly fine to stand there and wait and watch them. We get there to the line, and they're like, okay, it's a 40-minute wait. And I was like, that's cool. I got my purse. Like, y'all hand me the phone so you don't have to pay for a locker. Like, I will be the designated like loiterer. I will stand over here and I will watch for y'all, and I will video y'all coming down. And they were like, Meaghan, come on. It's gonna be a long line. We don't want you to just stand out here by yourself. And I'm like, dude, like, totally fine. Totally fine. I don't care. It's cool. I'll go grab a snack or something. Like, we're good. And they're like, okay, but it'd be more fun if you came, because then we'd have a whole log to ourselves, and we, you know, we could just talk and hang out in the line. And so for the first time in my life, I caved to peer pressure and I went on the ride. So we got a locker. We put all of our stuff in the locker so that it doesn't get soaked. And the lockers for the water rides are not, at least they weren't. They could be now, but they weren't complimentary at the time. You had to pay if you wanted to use a locker for a ride where it wasn't a safety thing. Like for Hulk and stuff, it was a safety thing, so they provided the lockers for you and you had to use them. But for water rides, it's just a courtesy, like, hey, you can use these if you don't want your stuff to get wet, but you had to pay. So I think we did pay, and we put our stuff in there. And we go and we get in line and we waited the 40 minutes or whatever it was, and we ride the ride. The premise of the ride is, if you're not familiar with Dudley Do-Right, that was the protagonist guy from Rocky and Bullwinkle and Snidely Whiplash, you know, the guy with the mustache. He's the antagonist. He's the bad guy that y'all are like chasing down and stuff. And there's a couple of like fake out drops and stuff like that. You can watch the POV online, I'm sure. But the big thing is you do this drop. So I am just nervous as heck about this drop. I don't like drop rides. I don't like water rides. Let's do them both in one. So why not? They were like, you can ride in the very back. That way the water won't like get you as bad. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine, whatever. So we're in line, we get up to the front. They're like, all right guys, how many do we have? There's 4 of us. Cool, take your log, get situated, go off, do our thing. The important thing that you should know is how we oriented ourselves in this log. So they put me at the back because I wanted to be as far away from the front of water as possible. And then in front of me was, there were 2 guys and 2 girls. So it was me, and then it was my other girlfriend, and then the 2 guys were in the front. Now these 2 guys are both big guys. I'm talking like 6 feet, 200 pounds plus, big guys. And then the 2 small girls in the back, and she's taller than I am, so she's a little bit bigger. So we basically were riding like this. The boat kind of lifted up in the back because our weight was so unevenly distributed, and those team members probably should have told us to like reposition ourselves and like distribute the weight more evenly, because the 2 of us were just like hanging out back here up in the air. So we're riding along, we're scraping the bottom. We can hear the boat, like we have maxed out the weight capacity. How many skippers is too many? 4, apparently. 4 skippers is too many in one Dudley Do-Right's boat. But we ride through, we're having a good time, we're just giggling and laughing and having a ball, and then we get to the drop. And as we go down this drop, it was not like a normal water ride where you hit the bottom and the water splashes up all around you. No, that would have been too convenient. What happened instead was, as this boat is riding, it's not, you know, we're not actually in the air, but you know, we're tilted. The front is definitely heavier than the back. As we plummet down this 5-story drop, we hit the bottom of the water. The water does not spray around the boat. The water sprays over the boat. It was a tidal wave of water over our boat. I wish I had had glasses or something to be videoing it as we went, because if I had put this in slow motion, it would have been amazing. You could just watch the water come up over, and it got me. I was wet, and it got my other girlfriend in front of me. She was wet too, but we were nowhere near as soaked as my 2 guy friends. These 2 guys, I've never seen a wetter human being. You could have thrown them in the water. They would not have been wetter than they were. The wave crashed over and just dropped on them. So I'm pretty wet, but they got it from the front, they got it from the top. Their backs were soaked. Literally the only spots of their bodies that were not wet when we stood up were 2 little circles where their booty cheeks had been sitting. That was the only spot of their bodies that was not wet. And they were like, Meaghan, we're sorry. Oh God, we're so sorry. And I was like, no, I'm good. My eyelashes, we're all good. They know that you're gonna get soaked. So they have human-sized dryers that you can pay and use. Like, you stand in it and like look like you're at TSA at the airport, but you dry off. we didn't do that. We just left. This was in the middle of the summer, so they did dry off probably before we even got to the car. I don't remember. But that is the time that we got slapped in the face and on the top of the head and back and everywhere else by the water at Deadly Do Rides Ripsaw Falls. That is it. Those are a couple of times that I went to Universal with my friends, and coincidentally, a couple of times that I got completely soaking wet at Universal. I wasn't as wet as my other friends, but they were the ones who wanted to ride it, in my defense. And their plan worked. I stayed dry, so good job, guys. I love y'all. That is it for today. Have you guys been on any of these rides? Do you like the Simpsons ride? First of all, like, I'm telling you, it's either a love it or hate it thing. I don't know anyone who's like, meh. It's love it or hate it. And have you been on Deadly Do rides? Did you get soaking wet? Let me know your stories of your favorite water rides down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, y'all.